Is Georgia good enough to beat Alabama? I don't know. That's what Tony Barnhart told Paul Feinbaum this past week. You can tell we're in the off season because this is sort of stuff we're talking about, not necessarily what the kids and the coaches are saying, but what we're all saying in the media. And I think it's a good question. Tony Barnhart's been around college football for a long time. I actually don't know who he technically works for right now. He may be retired, but has very good knowledge of the SEC and went to Georgia and knows Georgia well. And there's a lot of folks that do what I do who are kind of picking around, trying to figure out if they're comfortable enough saying, hey, Georgia should win the conference. And I'm not there yet. I mean, I want to see both Bama and Georgia play before I really make a smart statement about that. It is there for the taking for Georgia. I mean, Alabama lost a lot of guys on offense, no question, and their defense will be better. But we can't sit here and act like Georgia's got. I mean, Alabama has Georgia's number, no question, and no one. I'm trying to think if anyone during Kirby's time, which would technically include two wins from Clemson over Alabama, but I'm not sure. Beside, I mean, Auburn has played Alabama really well and won. Clemson has played Alabama well twice and won those two games. Georgia's played Alabama two and a half times and played well, but never won. And I remember the time. I think everyone watching this remembers. Mark Richt's first 3 years at Georgia. He had two really good teams in that time, 2002 and 2003, and they just couldn't beat Florida. In 2001, that game was a 24-10 win. I think I'm going off memory here. 24-10 win from Florida. That was a good Florida team that turned it over 5 times that day. And that was a Florida team that should have played for the SEC championship and lost, and possibly the national championship. Lost to Tennessee on the last game of the year. That was an amazing win for Tennessee that day. And then 2002, Steve Spurrier is gone. Here comes Ron Zook, and Georgia was just, it was like the only night game I can remember with Georgia, Florida here in the last 4 decades. And Florida shocked them. They just did the same thing over and over and over again. And Brian Van Gorder never seemed to adjust. The pick six from DJ Shockley in the second quarter. I mean, but Georgia was winning that game, I think, in the third or fourth quarter. They should have closed it out and didn't. And then 2003, 16-13 loss for Georgia, where the Gators kick a field goal to win it right at the end. Drove to the field against Brian Van Gorder's team. So it sounds like I'm against Brian Van Gorder. That's not what it is. It's just that you really would like your defense to step up and do something at times. And only allowing 16 points or fewer, that's definitely is not your defense's fault exclusively that you lose a game. But back to the Georgia Bama thing, Mark's teams were better than Florida in 2002 and probably 2003. I don't know if you can say that with the teams that Georgia played at Alabama. I mean, Georgia was maybe the better team. I said probably were, or it was very tight in 2017. So same thing about 2018. Those were really tight ball games between Georgia and Bama, and Alabama just at the end of the games did what it had to do, whether it was a miracle throw from Tua to win it, or the come from behind with Tua getting knocked out of the game, and here comes Jalen Hurts. So it just Georgia's not quite been better. They've been the same or slightly worse. In 2020, I mean, that Georgia had control of that game or was winning it in the third quarter, deep into the third quarter, was surprised, and it surprised me. But it showed what they were missing was a playmaking quarterback. And Stetson just was not ready that night to play the way that he needed to win that game. So back to the Tony part, Tony Barnhart talking about, is Georgia good enough to beat Alabama? He says, I don't know. And this is Georgia's going to have a really good team. Well, Alabama seems to have a really good team essentially every year, although it's not been every single year. I mean, when you think about their 18 team, or was it the 2014 team? Excuse me. The 14 team was not great. The 13 team was okay. The 19 team was not great. That was probably one of his worst teams. But um, you know, 15 they win it, 16 losing in the championship game, 16 they lose in the championship game, 17 winning on a miracle, 18 get blown out in the championship game, 19 just not a good team really for their standards. And then, winning it straight. I think their 2020 team was as good a team as they've had. Period. Certainly on offense is probably their best team. The defense was not as good, but that's what Georgia's going to have to deal with. See, is all this discussion of Alabama. It's going to come down to it for Kirby. We are 6 years into it now, and it does take a second or two to get going. Well, the problem was for Kirby, if you want to call it a problem, they go and play for the national championship in year two. Um, but it was during that time when he was trying to change the way his program would be built, which was offense, not defense. And these last, I would say 19 and 20 were the 2 years that they got caught not being able to score the way they wanted to. And now we're seeing that this team has all the weapons it needs. So if they don't win against Alabama, it's not the kids. And that's not me laying blame at Kirby specifically. I mean, I'm not sure they lose to Alabama this year. We'll just have to see. But it's not that they don't have the players. They've got the players. That's not the issue. And you know, in 19, I don't know that they had the players. Certainly didn't have the players to win the national championship. In 20, they didn't have the players. They didn't have the right player in the right place. They do now, though. And what you're trying to do, if you're Kirby and them, is string together as many high-level classes, top three classes, as you possibly can in order to win it. What Nick and them have done in Tuscaloosa is outstanding. But this particular championship, the 2021, um, came after some serious beatings that they took. The loss to Clemson in the championship game in 2018, that was a thumping. Alabama came back, but what LSU did to them in the game in Tuscaloosa in 2019, that was a whipping. Okay, that was a beating. And so Nick's teams have taken some beatings before. If you remember the 14 team, excuse me, 2014, excuse me, easy enough for me to say, the year after they won the national championship at LSU, I mean, Georgia wasted. I mean, that was dirty what they did to them. So it can happen. But Nick and them were building up to the 2020 season. I mean, has Georgia been doing that? I mean, at some point, there's going to be frustration from fans about Kirby Smart not winning the national championship because that's all he's not done. And he has been a extraordinary coach at Georgia. He really has. But it's time to win the national championship. And all the resources that have been poured into the program, all the resources Kirby has demanded and gotten, all of the kids, all of the development, and it's all there. It's all happened. I mean, Georgia and Ohio State and Oklahoma, there's really no excuse other than there are five really good programs in college football right now, of which Georgia is one of them. And the difference is, and I'm not including LSU in that. The difference with two of the five is that they've won it with their head coach. Georgia needs to get that accomplished. Oklahoma needs to accomplish that. Ohio State needs to accomplish that. And then it will be, can you win another? This is the game. That's what it is. And, for Kirby and company, it's an important season. But, goes back to Tony's basic question. Are they good enough to beat Alabama? I don't know. But we're going to probably see if that's the case because Georgia and Bama playing in Atlanta seems like a lot of sense to me. Well, let's talk about it more over on dogpost.com. We'll see you on the website.